Greetings Exiles and welcome to my Path of Exile 3.12 Heist League starter build, ranking and comparison. This time we got 12 builds including the fastest mappers, the strongest damage dealers, the easiest boss fighters, a lot of unique playstyles and many all-rounder builds that can simply do everything. No matter the ranking and values in each category, I completed the game with cheap endgame gear on every single build. Endgame, I mean tier 16 maps, Cyrus, all league mechanics and everything on Awakening level 8. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list of all builds in the game, because nobody can play and test all of them. But all of the builds shown here have been tested by myself and I got guides online, or they are going to be online within the next 48 hours of this video going live. All links you can find in the video description. Those include my Twitch, our Discord server, timestamps, and the Path of Building pastebin links. Please download the Path of Building community fork, otherwise you will not be able to view them. And as soon as the PoE update will be released, I am also going to update every single PoE, so stay tuned on that. If you've watched my previous League Start ranking video, you already know the drill. Nevertheless, I really want to go over how the ranking works, and keep in mind, this is my personal experience and community feedback fused together. The tier 16 clear speed is how fast the character clears maps, including the map boss. Single target DPS is basically the effective Cyrus DPS. Survivability is a mix of map and boss toughness. Upgradability means once you got all the recommended endgame gear, how many pieces can be upgraded in how many ways. Ease of play. Well, the easier the build, the better it is, in my opinion, or in most players' opinion. Then leveling speed is how much time it took me to level the character to maps, including the first 3 laps and level 70. Starter gear price is the approximated price of all the key gear for the character to clear all endgame. In every category, the more points, the better, and you can reach a total of 100 points, which we did not reach in this video. Enough talking, let's have a look at the first build, or actually 2 builds. These are 2 Divine Ire builds. This is why I'm fusing them together, because the skill is the same, but the scaling and the ascendancy is completely different. I want to start with the Divine Ire Trickster, which offers a lot of map clear because you got a lot of on-death explosions and the potential to one-shot every single boss in the game. Multi-conversion and then adding a lot of non-elemental as extra chaos and physical as extra chaos and all this stuff, combined with the Eternity Shroud and full shaped gear, is going to be the best scaling build that you can choose from my list. But it comes with 2 huge problems. The first is it's extremely situational. The damage is very RNG based depending on your crits and if your ascendancy procs. The other negativity is it's not really tanky and you have to stand still while channeling for maximum DPS. Compared to the Inquisitor version of Divine Ire builds, this build got the superior scaling, has a slower start and also less survivability. The next build is the other Divine Ire character, which is an Inquisitor utilizing Shimmeron and the Ascendancy to its maximum potential. This one is not relying on that much RNG. It is highly consistent with basically 100% chance to crit, and you get the potential here to go for a very high life and energy shield pool along with strong regen of both of these. The damage of this build is actually nothing too special. You can reach up to 2.5 million Cyrus DPS relatively easily without flasks. And the same negative aspect that the Divine Ire Trickster has is also true for this one. You have to stand still while channeling to deal the maximum DPS, which can obviously kill you. Compared to the Trickster version, this build has a lot less scaling but is a lot faster during the league start and needs a lot less gear to work very good. You can also scale a lot more survivability on this build if you choose to do so. The rank number 8 build is the Vortex Tank Occultist with 69 points. Nice. It has an easy playstyle and a lot of debuffs which allow for a really safe bossing even if you are a new player. During maps you got a lot of curse explosions going on, so your map clear isn't actually that bad. You got multiple layers of defense including a huge life, huge ES pool, then you are debuffing the enemy with your curses and maybe even auras, and then you can rely on a lot of armor if you want. You can go for a block, you can go for a lot of regen, you can go for so many defensive things here that if you want an easy boss killer, this might be the best choice for you. There are two main negatives. The first one is you are really lacking single target DPS. I'm talking about around 1 million Cyrus DPS, which, you know, is not that much, but since you are so tanky, it doesn't really matter if the Cyrus boss fight takes you 3.5 or 4 minutes because of your relatively low DPS. The other negativity is you actually have to get close to the enemy to place a vortex. It's not a ranged skill, but in most cases this is not that bad because for many bosses you wanna stand as close as possible to make it as easy as possible to dodge mechanics. Talking about killing bosses, the next build on my list at rank 7 is actually, in my opinion, the best boss killing build on my list, the Wintertide brand Lowlife Trickster. I started this build in Harvest League with, and on day like 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, I've already been carrying Cyruses and the Harvest boss for the challenges and all that, because it is extremely safe and easy to kill bosses on this character, because you're utilizing brands and huge chills together. It is really cheap. I've been carrying with a budget of around 6 Exalteds, and I could have done easily way more damage or gone for a lot more energy shield because scaling is really easy on this build. The single target, even though it is relatively safe of around 2 million without flasks, is not very impressive. And for mapping, you really need some learning for the maximum strength of this character, otherwise your mapping speed is not going to be that impressive. But other than that, a really solid all-rounder build that I can suggest for anybody who wants to try out brands. I'm always talking about how much I love brand skills in this game. And this is the second one on this list, the rank number 6, Stormbrand Inquisitor. Stormbrand has received a lot of nerfs and then buffs again and then nerfs and then buffs again over the past few leagues, but it's still one of the best skills in the game because it allows for a really safe playstyle against bosses and in maps. In maps you also got your brand recall, which makes up for the low AoE that your brand has built in. The Inquisitor Ascendancy, basically means that you do not have to care about enemy resistances, which makes this build a really easy and potent boss killer, because you can just place the brand on the boss and then run around dodging mechanics and wait for your brands to deal the damage. There are two negative things here. The first one is that the regeneration of this build, because you cannot really utilize life leech here, is not that big, so you're fully relying on your Inquisitor Ascendancy and flasks to keep you topped up. The other negativity, which for some players might be a positive thing, is that the build actually scales with the experience and how well you are performing on this build, especially once you're clearing maps, because you have to really work in order to make the brand recall really good. The rank number 5 on my list is the actual first attack-based character, the Bladestorm Berserker. This build utilizes Impale, which basically means you get absurd damage scaling, and with every single offensive item upgrade you're going to do, you are going to feel your damage. The Bladestorm playstyle is very unique and really rewarding. You can be fast and extremely active in combination with your Savior clones that are going to clear behind you and next to you while you are zooming through the maps and just Really fun, really unique playstyle, and if you get good at it, it is super, super damn fast. The build actually looks more tanky than it is. 6.5k life is a lot, but since your Ascendancy basically makes you squishier instead of making tankier, this can actually kill you. So you don't want to face tank everything, otherwise this could have lethal consequences. Also, the item prices are heavily depending on the league meta. I'm talking about the Savior, which in one league was around 13 Exalted, and in the next league was like 80 Chaos. So yeah, but if you want a fast attack-based character that's unique, go for this one. The next build I want to talk about is, in my opinion, the actual strongest build that I have ever played, and that is the strongest build that is on this list. Why is it not rank 1 though? Because it is really hard to play. I'm talking about my Scorch Arrow Poison Pathfinder. It offers a really unique channeling bow playstyle, and poison proliferation from your Pathfinder Ascendancy means that you basically have multiple screen-wide AoE. So you're super fast in maps, you can clear blighted maps as well, super easily, and you got a lot of defense. You got basically always uptime on flasks, you can go for 7k plus life, a lot of evasion, a high mobility, you are ranged, you got a lot of debuffs, and if you have to dodge, you are dealing damage over time, which means you are never actually losing out on DPS. But, as I said already, I really underestimated how hard this build is to play for some less experienced players. So, if you do not want to play in a hard build, then do not play this one. But once you get used to it, it is 200 or it is 1000% worth it. On rank number 3, I actually have two really similar builds. This is a classic, the Cyclone Champion on 79 points. We are utilizing Impale just as on the Bladestorm Berserker, which means absurd damage scaling. But what Cyclone offers us is a super easy, smooth, and also relatively safe playstyle. You got a lot of defense on here with a high life pool, leech, overleech actually, regen, armor, evasion. You are mobile because you are a Cyclone, and you can debuff enemies around you. The problem with this build is that Cyclone actually has a relatively low base AoE, so you need some investment in order to make it feel really good as a clearing character. And Cyclone, especially in the early stages, like when you're leveling, you get it on level 28, it's basically not a skill. But if you want to play an easy build that deals really high damage, that can take down all the content in the game on basically no gear, this is the way to go. The other build on rank number 3, because they share the same total of 79 points and are basically the same scaling with just a few changes, is the Reef Blade Flurry Champion. If you don't want to play a boring or lazy playstyle, then this is the way to go. The advantages from this build over the Cycloner is that the Reef, as your main clearing ability, has actually a screen-wide AoE. And Blade Flurry, which you would swap in for bosses, is the strongest damage scaling attack that you can go for. I'm talking about around 7 to 8 million with really low investment of maybe like 10 Exalteds into the character, which is really impressive in my opinion. The disadvantages of this build are that Blade Flurry, if you want to really utilize it to its maximum potential, which by the way is not really necessary, but if you want to maximize it, playstyle wise, it is really difficult to do so. Also, as I already said, you want to do gem swaps for the optimal setups. So in maps, and for most content that you're usually going to play, Reef is the way to go. And when you're facing a boss like Cyrus or Shaper or Ubalor or such, you want to go for a gem swap put in Blade Flurry and just decimate everything in front of you. And coming in at rank number 1 is a build that has actually been featured by other Path of Exile community members already, my Toxic Rain CI Trickster. This build just does everything. And you got so many possibilities to scale this build, it is just crazy. It is extremely easy to play. You just fire your skill and that's it. And then you start running to the next pack. And it is really safe because you got a lot of energy shield, you got a lot of evasion, you are ranged, and your damage is damage over time. Which means even if you're currently dodging, you will still deal damage, which really helps against big bosses. The AoE on this character is actually quite impressive, and you can scale it, as I said already, really high. So you can really make this build your own, depending on if you want more damage, if you want more AoE, if you want to be faster, or if you want to be more tanky. You can do pretty much anything on this character, and you can also play SSF. There are no real mandatory uniques in this build, which makes it really easy for players that got a little bit of experience on how to gearing a character, but it actually makes it hard for somebody who is completely new in the game. Don't worry, my guide should cover everything. One problem of this character, and actually the only problem, is that early on into the league, you need a little bit of investment before you can swap from life-based to energy shield-based. But this is my personal recommendation, and it's been recommended by other YouTubers and community members, so thank you very much for that as well. And those are all my 10 builds that I want to talk about in the first part of this video. Now let's have a look at this overview. You got all the rankings here with all the stats, and on the right hand side you can see my personal recommendation for somebody who is looking for something special. So my personal recommendation of any build, if you have absolutely no idea, would be the Toxic Rain CI Trickster. But if you want to go melee, if you want to go a lazy build, then the Cyclone character might be very interesting for you. If you want to have the absolute strongest character in my opinion, then I can suggest the Scorch Arrow, but remember, it comes with the really difficult playstyle, so do not do that if you do not want to learn how to play it. If you want to try out something new, then I can really suggest you the Bladestorm character, which offers a really unique melee playstyle, or the Wintertide brand if you want to go into fast bossing and safe bossing. If you're really new to bossing and you want to be a little bit more safer and easier, then you can also play the Vortex character. A lot of fun I also had on the Divine Ire characters. The Divine Ire Inquisitor is relatively cheap early on in the game or in the league, and if you want really absurd scaling, and I'm talking about hits that are around 100 million damage with a single hit, then maybe the Divine Ire Trickster, which really needs some investment early on, will be the build for you. But before you stop the video, this is not quite everything. I got 2 more honorable mentions here. The first one is the Elemental Hit Fire Ascendant. One of the best, maybe even the best map clearing character that I have ever played. It is a bow character that actually has a lot of single target potential, and it can be played very safe. The reason why this build is not on my main list is before you get 2 or 3 of your base items, the build is complete trash. So this is not really a league starter, but if you have a little bit of currency from your first character, this is, in my opinion, one of the best second characters you could go for. But don't forget, you are also squishy on the build, so don't expect anything out of the unordinary here if you're face tanking bosses. The second honorable mention here is a Blade Vortex Poison CI Assassin. I am actually expecting this build to be somewhat meta in the upcoming league, because it has been super duper OP strong for the past 2 or 3 leagues already, and they basically didn't change anything. So yeah, this is cheap. It is super easy to play. With a weapon swap utilization, you will have a lot of clear speed or single target, depending on the situation you're in. And yeah, one problem obviously is this is only a theory crafted version. I never played this Blade Vortex Poison, but it is the biggest contender for me to league start Heist with. But I'm still waiting on more information on Crackling Lance, because Crackling Lance looks like a really interesting skill as well. It's also relatively negative that it might be meta, because if it becomes meta, then the weapons are going to be way more expensive. I'm talking about maybe like an Exalted instead of 10 Chaos early on. So we gotta watch out for that, but that's it for all my builds in this video. And there you have it. My 12 league starter recommendations for you, depending on whatever you would like to play, try out, or what your goals for the league are. I hope this video helped you choose your league starter. For me, making these videos is always like, gosh damn it, what am I going to play now? Because there are so many viable options, but as I already said, I might be playing the Blade Vortex, I might be playing Crackling Lance, depending on the damage numbers that are going to be released, hopefully today within the next like 12 hours. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you think about this video and actually about my new intro. So I really put some work into the intro, so let me know what you think about it. And other than that, all links and timestamps and everything are in the video description. For all the builds, there is a guide included, and if there is no guide yet, I'm going to upload a guide within the next 48 hours. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel for more awesome content and guides and discussions, not only about PoE, probably also about PoE 2, Diablo 4, or any upcoming game. That's it from me for now. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck on the league start. I am Jay, and I'm out.